What scares you as an adult that didn't bother you as a kid? Signs of aging. When you're a kid, getting older means new and exciting changes. When you're in your 30s plus, it means far less fun things. I don't really sweat the cosmetic ones. I just try to think about the first lines to show up on my face were the ones you get from laughing. That feels right to me. The tendons in my legs not bouncing back from a walk or run. That I could do without. Traveling in a car, especially if I'm not the one driving. 7-year-old me. Man, it's amazing how many adults are smart enough to run hundreds of cars around the city going super fast and not hit each other. Adult me. Adult me. It's amazing how all these fucking idiots don't kill themselves. I have noticed that my severity of curse words I use while driving goes up a notch compared to when I'm not driving. Jumping down from a height greater than a few feet. As a kid I could jump off a roof and roll with it. Nowadays if I land funny I fear I'll be paralyzed for life. When I was 13, my brother and I jumped from our roof onto the trampoline. Now I get into a seated position on the truck tailgate before sliding off the remaining 6 inches. And yet I still need to let out a moan and groan when I do even that. A tooth falling out. As a kid it was gross, funny and painful all at once. As an adult, horrifying. My dentist said that a couple of my teeth are a little mobile. Then he said it's nothing to really worry about. As if hearing teeth and mobile in the same sentence is ever good. I had surgery a couple of months ago. When I woke up, I had a gash cut into my lower back gum about half an inch long. My very back lower tooth was also loose. I could wiggle it with my fingers. I was terrified. 2 different dentists took x-rays and told me no big deal. But I was mortified. Took about a month. But the gash healed and the tooth tightened up. How does that happen? I bought a house a couple years ago. Literally everything scares me now. It's raining. Probably gonna flood the basement. Windy. Trees gonna fall on the house. Weird smell. Probably an electrical fire. Leave the house for literally 5 minutes. Obviously going to explode due to a gas leak. You forgot burglary. Yep. Add that to the list. My parents' mortality. I've already done the please don't die before I get to the hospital plane flight. Thankfully that was not the case. For now. This one is kind of weird for me but completely true. Because when you are a child, you see for parents' mortality as something so far away and that eventually you will be prepared. But is never the case. Recently my grandmother died after a long disease, and what it struck me the most was the reaction from my mom. She said no Somersnadder. We are nothing. She was devastated, and then it comes to my mind. One day I would be the one on her shoes and she will be on the coffin. The hard part is that is the best result. That you bury your parents, not the other way around. Needing help or advice. I'm a grown adult now. 34. And my mom and dad have since passed on. When I run into a problem with an appliance or a home repair or need help with a recipe, it always takes me a minute to remember they aren't here anymore. Really sucks having no one to lean on when things get hard. My mom used to just give me $100 without question when I'd be hard up for money. No more bank of mom. If I run out of money now I'm just fucked until payday. Edit. Thank you all for your kind words and advice. I don't know if this will help or not, but there's a YouTube channel where it's just a dad recording how to do things like basic plumbing or electrical. I'm only 19, but he has helped me out a couple of times when I couldn't find anyone nearby that had the answers. Head injuries. As a kid, I thought broken bones were the big thing to worry about because I could visualize what that was. I had no sense for the severity of brain injuries. As an adult, protecting my noggin is my #1 injury concern. Because the human machine don't work with a damaged processor. Everything that you are and respect is contained in this tiny dome. One false move and you can become a monster to your peers or a burden to your loved ones. It's pretty scary to consider that. This is actually something I've dealt with to an extent. I busted my head in a weird ice skating incident. Pretty badly concussed. The people close to me around that time said I completely changed as a person following that. Lost a lot of friends. I only have very faint memories from before and rely on others to jog my memory a bit. I consider myself lucky to not be worse. but I can't help but wonder how I'd react if I could somehow meet myself before that. Also, I didn't have ADHD before, but I do now. That's fun, mayo. Roller coasters. I used to ride them all summer long because I had a Six Flags summer pass. I went a few years ago with my younger sister. It wasn't fun anymore. I just kept feeling like I was going to die. I ended up holding purses and keeping my feet on the ground. I never understood why my mom would just wait for me, but I get it now. Edit. Thanks for the awards. Getting out of bed in the morning after you slept in the wrong position. I slept funny the other day, so when I would turn my head a certain way, my elbow hurt. What the fuck? I had no fear of U-Hauls until I rented a U-Haul. I filled out all of my information online and they gave me the keys to a 27-foot box truck. No training, no anything. They'll just let anyone take these massive vehicles and drive them off the lot. Give them a wide berth. Lack of time. As a kid, felt like I had all the time in the world. As an adult, I feel like I have no time to do anything other than work. How easily your life can start going downhill, though. On the contrary, how crazy fast life can go uphill after it comes crashing down. 2 years ago I got run off a job by a top tier superintendent W. Harletant after my job trying to get me fired, saying I don't know what I'm doing and calling me a L. Struggled with depression and a strong addiction to alcohol after that. Today I got nominated as the Employee of the Year for leadership in my state. 8. All I did was try to make everybody's lives easier. Garage door springs. I owned my own garage door company for 10 years, so naturally I'm not afraid of them. But I can assure you, if you are not trained and don't know what you're doing, those springs will absolutely beat you to death. Maybe at best, take off a few fingers. Number 1 tip. Do not use a screwdriver to try to wind them or unwind them. Yay, using a screwdriver sounds like an awesome way to get suddenly impaled. Honestly, death. Never really thought about it as a kid. Think about it way too much as an adult. Edit. Weirdly comforting to see I'm not the only one. Thank you for the awards. I hope you figure out how to get past the fear of what is inevitable as well. The only thing that makes me sad about death is leaving behind the things I love, that I'll never be conscious of them again. Loved ones and even my favorite films. Never to know them again. Never to hear music again. Never to be cozy at home with a good film. Instead your body is 6 feet underground forever in all weather. Never to be looked at or touched again. Anything related to going to the hospital. When I was a kid, I was always in the emergency room with a deep cut or broken bone. Now that I realize it isn't as free as I thought it was when I was a kid, I'll make any excuse to not go to the hospital. Case in point, my wife, before we were married, went to the ER with severe abdominal pains and found out she had an infection in her gallbladder. So they removed it. Her hospital bill, because she went out of network and had an ER visit, was over $80. 000. Meanwhile, I probably would have just died because I would have crunched down 100 Imodium before visiting the hospital. Sugar, I'm a doctor and I avoid the hospital at all costs. Luckily I can do a lot of the repairs myself, but I almost tore my brother a new one when he went to the ER for stitches. Ridiculously overpriced, I should say as well. Let's say you go to the ER for stitches, your bill will probably be $1,500. You know how much the staff W. Howlett actually cared for you will CFT. Probably about $300 split between all the providers you come face to face with. It's bananas. Nuts. Anesthesia. As a kid, I was led to believe that it was something magical that happened to you when you got your tonsils out, and then afterwards, you could eat all the ice cream you wanted. Now that I've had it as an adult and know that there's always a possibility it could go horribly wrong, I get really antsy and scared just thinking about it. Being in large crowds. Totally this. In high school and college I was nearly trampled at crowded concerts and other drunken types of revelries, and shot at. Now I'm scared of either getting trampled or another mass shooting. Deep water. I learned to swim in it by essentially jumping into a pool on holiday as all the other kids were in the pool and didn't want to be left out. Now for some reason, if I'm in water and it reaches my chest, I'm struck by an absolute rising sense of dread. My breathing gets shallow and I feel so uneasy and upset I have to get into shallower water to be calm again. I came here to say this. My mom used to call me a water baby because I loved water so much. Now I'm older and I've learned what sort of creatures actually live in the sea. The sheer depth of it. How many ways you can die in it. It's just plain terrifying. I used to love flying as a kid. Then, when I was late teen/young adult, I was on a particularly turbulent flight for hours over the ocean and thought we were going to crash. 4 years after that, I couldn't fly without anxiety. I didn't want to look out the window. I'd close my eyes and mutter through turbulence, etc. Then, inexplicably, I chose a career as a flyer in the Air Force. That helped to get me over my fear of flying pretty well. Yep, similar boat. Flown at least a couple times a year since I was a little kid and had no problem flying, even alone. Even hit a turbulent flight to Tokyo about 10 years ago that didn't faze me long term. Then when I was about 26 or 27 I was on an island hopper type plane during a thunderstorm. The flight, which was coming from a very tiny airport, had originally been grounded, but somehow we got approval to fly about a half hour later, and I legit thought I was going to die that day. That storm tossed us around like we were a toy. There were only 3 other passengers on the plane. A little old lady W harlot slept through the whole time, and a couple of Air Force guys W harlot chatted pleasantly with each other like nothing was happening. It was really surreal. Real. Had some flight anxiety for a year or so after that. The final realization that the path you're on, career, wife, skills, friends, will be the one you travel until retirement. It's like welp. Only 30 years to go. This is my life now. As I edge closer to my 30s, this one scares me more than most. This isn't just some video game where I can start over and pick another path. There are only so many places I can live, people I'll know, or career paths that I can go down. All I can try now is get one that will make this little existence somewhat meaningful to fill the void. I was crazy on bicycles when I was a kid. I'd jump anything, anywhere, on a little tiny bike, crashing spectacularly like we all did in the 70s. Now, I have a bike with suspension that rivals a motocross bike, and this very bike can handle obstacles that off-road trucks might have issues with, and I ride around never leaving the earth, with a helmet, and enough other stuff on I can literally play football. Oh god yes. I used to do insane jumps out of gullers into intersections of the neighborhood I grew up in. There was hardly ever traffic, but even the idea that I could get hit by a car never crossed my mind. Now, if there's a car driving within 10 feet of me, I can barely hold it together. I just stopped riding bikes a couple of years ago. Financial emergency 100%. When you're a kid you don't think about things like this. You could be off of work due to injury for 2 months and lose everything you worked hard for, even if you were doing everything right financially. Seeing a balance of $100.00 in my account now vs. when I was a kid is a much different experience. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.